Hello, so this is Barbara Luel, and we're in the Sonian forest near Brussels, and it's beautiful autumn, beginning of October, and I will be sketching in this zine. So it's paper I folded to have some autumn themed homemade sketchbook, just like a big sheet I folded. And I'm sketching in this video this beautiful little house in the forest. So let's start this sketch in the forest. Like all urban sketching outside, when you sketch on a site, it's always feeling of overwhelm because there's so much to draw. And here in the forest, there's so many trees. There's the little house and all the leaves and everything. So I try to focus on what's important to choose what I want to draw. And if you saw my class about drawing made easy, drawing on the right side of the brain, there are the perceptual skills for observational drawing, which are always good to remember when you are drawing something where there's so much to see. The first skill is the perception of edges, so see in what direction the lines are going. So these trees have all different lines going in all different directions. Like the house, it has lines going in all different directions. And then there's the perception of spaces, to see what's in front of something else. And so here I started by drawing the trees, because they're in front of the house, and it's a good thing to draw only what you see. So I'm not drawing what I know is behind the tree, because that's my left brain speaking. I know the house continues behind the tree, but I don't see it, so I don't draw it. And then there's also the perception of light and shadow. We will put some shadow in some parts of the house, and there's also the light and shadow of the forest. So there's some trees which are lighter than other trees. And then there's the perception of proportions, and that's to see what size one line has compared to another, and what are the proportion of the house, and what are the proportion of the tree. You have small, narrow tree trunks, and then you have thicker trees. So I try to see what size one object has compared to another. So, but let's paint a bit some of these marvelous autumn colors. So I use, for the yellows, I use raw sienna and raw umber. And then there's, for the orange, I use burnt orange, quinacridone burnt orange by Daniel Smith. And then there's still a lot of green. There's the green grass, which is around the house, and then there's still some green in the trees. But I focus on all the autumn colors. You can just use, of course, all the colors that you like most. I paint the trees around the house, and the house is white. The side facade is a bit darker than the facade in front of me, so I will make it a bit grayish later. But the house shape is painted negatively, so I mean it stays white of the paper and I paint the trees around it, which makes the shape of the house come to stand out. For the green, I use Schminke Desert Green for the trees. It's a greenish gray. It's a greenish gray, and it's a super granulating color. Like for the green, I use Forest Green by Schminke, which is also very granulating. And it's a kind of muted green. Then I paint the tiles of the house with my dagger brush, which is a flat brush, and I suggest just some tiles in the corner of the house. I never draw all the tiles because that makes the roof look a bit flat and boring, like little soldiers standing one next to another. Which reminds me also to tell you to be careful not to put the trees on an equal distance one next to the other, because that is not really very natural. So you better vary the distance between the trees to make your painting look more interesting. So I paint around the trees and I leave them white for the moment, even if I will paint some of them later on. And I also paint behind the little poles which are drawn in front. And I never use masking fluid because I find it a bit too strong edges. Then I prefer to just paint around what I want to leave white. And the windows and door are made dark because they look really dark, as it's very bright outside, and inside there's no light, so it's dark. During the day, windows are mostly dark. And I make the autumn colors go a bit inside the door and the window, and also some green to link them all together. And then there's the shadow of the cornice, and on the side facade I will make it a bit in the shadow later on. And next to the house behind, I will make the color a bit darker to make the house come to the front. So some trees are painted with this gray and some are left a bit white, and to make a variation in the trees and in the forest. I add some blue and some pink splashes. I splash also on the roof of the house to make another suggestion of roof tiles. And then of course I splash in the forest to suggest leaves. So I want also to refer to another class to create some depth in your paintings and in your sketches. So a reminder to create some depth. So all the colors which are stronger and more saturated are coming to the front. Also all the warmer colors compared to cooler colors So warmer colors is with yellow, orange, red. They will come to the front and attract attention. And also everything which is more detailed will come to the front and attract attention. So when you're sketching, it's good to keep that in mind and think about what I want people to watch in the painting. And so now I will add some greasy watercolor pencil lines on the wet paper to attract attention to what I find important. So I add some stronger lines to the house, and I will also add some stronger trees in the front of the house. So this darker gray color pencil will give another extra texture to some trees and branches in front of the house. And then I will also add some burnt sienna color in the forest. I do some hatching with the color pencil, and it's a quite strong textured paper. It's not very smooth, so the hatching doesn't work very well, but I will suggest some leaves on the trees just by doing some curly drawing in between the trees. So that gives another playful accent to the forest. And then I receive a present from a tree. It's an autumn leaf which falls on my sleeve. So let's add it to the page. I will do this really quickly now because it's getting cold and this is not my main subject, but it's a fun detail to add as a souvenir on my autumn page. And as the colors for the leaf, I also use raw umber and raw sienna. And for the shadow of the leaf, which I do very quickly, it's not very correctly detailed, I will use my mixture of ultramarine blue and transparent orange. So I hope you had fun in this video, and I'm curious to see what you sketch in your sketchbook or on a loose sheet of paper like I did. Have fun!